we're going to go to Indio, California, and Robert, who's listening to us on 93.7 KCLB in Palm Springs. You're on Rockline, Robert.
Hello, Jeff and Eddie. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What's your question?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say I've been following your career for some time now. I caught the first and last Lollapalooza shows last year at Shoreline and at Irvine. And you're coming to my hometown on November 5th. Strangely enough, pop culture, as it were, hits the Coachella Valley. I wanted to know what brings you guys out here, 2.5-hour drive from L.A., as opposed to playing, say, a larger venue in the metropolitan area.
Okay, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Do this with me. Raise your hand like you're trying to get the teacher's attention.
All right.
I know you didn't do that when you were young. You were hoping they wouldn't call you. But if you raise your hand, make a fist. Up there on top is Washington, Seattle. Around your wrist, we're looking at the West Coast here now, get it? Around your wrist is Oregon. Around your elbow is the capital, Sacramento. Right around your armpit is Los Angeles. So we're going to go in a little bit and play the nipple, or, something like that. Indio, is that where we're playing?
Yeah. Yes. November 5th, Indio.
So we'll see you there.
And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking camera in the truck. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. Randy Sobel here, Chris Buckley over there. And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, we are a podcast that does primarily Pearl Jam shows where we cover one show specifically throughout their history and break down the set list, and we talk about the legacy behind the show and what it means to people and things like that. So we got a good one for you today. We've been kind of hanging out in the not so distant past, and this week we're going to take a trip 26 years into the past with Indio 1993. Buckley, hello.
Hello.
How's
goes everybody? It's good. How are you?
We're good on this end. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, this is an instant classic. I think from the moment that the show was played, for a number of reasons, all of which we will, as always, dive into in great detail. Obviously, the standout moment is, of course, the now legendary improv known as Fuck Me in the Brain.
Yep.
So that one stands out. And then, of course, the other huge moment from this show that everybody knows is the shoe rant, because this is the most insane crowd that I've ever seen at a Pearl Jam show.
They are.
And they are just on another level and antagonizing the band, and Eddie's fighting back at the band. It's a whole thing. So it's kind of like they're warring with the audience for this show, and things get a little out of control until Eddie finally at the end says, all right, I'm waving the white flag, and then, they kind of agree to, let's just try to calm things down at this point. But it's the epitome of Angry Ed. This is peak prime Angry Eddie. The energy level is off the charts. Their fame is skyrocketing at this point, 92, 93, 94, from 10 into Versus into Vitalogy, and the whole scene is exploding everywhere, and they are trying to come to terms with becoming more famous, and it's clearly things are getting a little nuts, I think, at this point, where they're moving away from just the small club shows at this point. This is, 25,000 fans at the what is it, the polo fields?
Yeah,
right. Empire Polo Fields in Indio, right?
Yeah, this is
this is where now Coachella is held.
Right. This was according to the PJ20 book. This is the first ever show that they held at what's now known as Coachella.
Right. So clearly getting away from these smaller venues. I mean, if you, just really quickly scrolling through 2 Feet Thick here, and it gives you a good idea of the number of the attendance of all these shows. So when they played the Gorge on September 5th, so this Indio show is November 5th, 93. So 2 months before they played the Gorge with Neil Young, and there's 19,000 people there. Then they go a couple other shows. They play like a warm-up show at the Off-Ramp, 299 people. Santa Cruz, California, 800. Then they play that famous show at the Warfield Theater. Even that, for however, even how popular that show is, 2,250 people, 6,000, 8,000, 3,000, 3,000. There's a lot of these smaller, not quote-unquote small shows, but nothing like this 25,000 show where the fans are just insane. I mean, literally, if you go to YouTube and just look it up, I'm sure a lot of people have already seen a lot of these clips. It's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, the crowd is absolutely going bananas.
I would have loved to see
throwing the shoes and
yeah.
just a whole haze of smoke, and like there's toilet paper being thrown around.
This is Woodstock, basically.
This is nuts, and the crowd is all jumping up and down. Like if you go to the end, like Bob O'Reilly's the last song they play. If you just go to that point, I mean, even throughout the whole show, but really, everybody jumping up and down in unison to the riff as it's being played. Oh, I mean, it's cool in that regard, and that everyone's just having a great time. But it's like they're just so raucous and so just rude, throwing shoes at the band. I mean, Jeff finishes the show behind the amps. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's a little much, and I don't know if the band just brings out this just impactful like hate and anger and vitriol with the crowd. I don't know what it is, and it doesn't help on this night that Ed is not in his friendliest form.
He's clearly, I think it's very quickly evident when you listen back that he has had more than just a little bit to drink as well.
Right, yeah. He's kind of, and I think from the moment that the first band took the stage, 11, which was Jack Irons' old band, people were throwing shoes on the stage at that point, and Jack was getting really pissed, and he actually, they stopped a song, and they said if they find out who threw the shoe, that they would make him pay for the damages.
Right, hit his bass drum.
Right.
Who throws a shoe? Honestly.
It says here from Five Horizons that the crowd was unruly, like moshing in line during sound check and to PA music. Like this is insane. And then like a roadie sang a rendition of Copacabana. Like there's some real nutty stuff. If there was video of that going around, I think that would be a gem right there. But shit, there's some real nutty stuff going on in the show. We'll get to that in just a second. Of course, we got to bring up all of our early show stuff that we always bring up. And first, we bring up Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/live-on-4legs. We have some exclusive episodes that are always there, always for the taking with your contribution to the show. You help us out and you help us grow and expand into something better, that we can be a little bit better than we are today. We can get more insight. We can get basically to keep this podcast afloat. Your help is 100% appreciated. For that, we give back a little bit something extra. I believe that if it's not up already, then there is a Corduroy Evolution episode that is going to be up. So that you'll have, and that again, 4 Evolution episodes that are there, and a couple of exclusive extra leg episodes, as we'll say. And what else do they get for signing up to Patreon, Buck?
Well, they also get the chance, if you'd like, and you donate and you're a patron, you can come on the show, tell us a show that you'd like to cover on the show with us, and we'll dive into it. We'll give it a full listen and explore everything. And usually I'm sure it'd be a show that you went to if you're willing to want to talk about it. I'm sure you'd probably gone to the show, so you could tell us all about your experience, about the show, your memories, etc. And yeah, we'll have a great time. We'll have you on, and we'll go through everything with you. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. And next week we're going to have Aurelian on the show. He's been a patron from the start, and he's going to be talking about London 2018. So that was the one,
Nice.
that was the night 2 show. So that the redemption
Makeup,
night, so to speak. Yes. One other thing to get to before we get into the songs and the storylines and everything like that. We, starting tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, we are going to be having a poll that's going to be up. We're going to be doing individual polls for every single year of the decade. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago through our social media accounts. We wanted to know from you guys what the best show of the decade is. And we're going to find this out in a more mathematical way. So what we're going to do is every couple days, we're going to put out a new poll with a new year. So obviously tomorrow we're going to start 2010, and you'll get all the shows from 2010 to vote on. You'll get a chance to vote for 5 shows. Now I'll let you vote multiple times, but only once per day. I think that's more than fair, but you get to vote for 5 different shows at a time, and then there'll be a certain period where 2010 will be up, and then we'll get 2011 be the show that the year that you vote on, and so on and so forth until we're done, until we whittle it down to about 25 to 30 different shows from all of the years. And obviously you're going to have the big ones in there as well, but you're going to have, I think they're going to be a good array of shows, but it's up to you guys to choose. And from that top 25, we're going to pick 10 and do an episode on it on January 1st, actually. We're going to release the top 10 shows of the decade episode, where we'll determine from your votes what shows are the best shows of the decade. And there's so much shit to choose from. A couple weeks ago, we did MSG Night 2 2010. If that's not on there, I will crack some bitches. I will get angry. I will get violent if I have to. Like John says, I will fight you. What else would you want on that list? What else do you think? Early contenders.
I mean, we kind of touched on it in that MSG episode, but Amsterdam 2012 is probably in there.
It's a good one, yeah.
Brooklyn Night 2, which again, we're not biased in any way at all.
No, right. I think you got to go with Leeds 2014. That's a really popular one.
I know Krakow gets a lot of love from 2018.
And then you got your obvious ones, your Moline and your Tenadelphia.
Right.
Those are going to be
Moline is a big one. A lot of people like Moline, Yieldwalkie.
Your Wrigley's, your Fenways. Like, those are all going to be in contention, I'm sure. But there's only one way for us to know, and there's only one way for your favorite show to get into the top, and that's for you to vote. And throughout all of our social media pages, we'll be posting all of the info on how to vote and where to vote and all of that fun stuff. So that's starting tomorrow if you're listening to this on Wednesday, and it'll be about 2 years a week that we'll do, within like 2 to 3 days of each other. So I think we'll get that going, and this will be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really curious, because even just posting that picture where we were asking people what their favorite show of the decade was, I mean, there were so many different answers.
Tons.
So many different answers. Like shows that I had forgotten had even been played.
Yeah.
That people were bringing up. So it's definitely going to be a really good, wide-ranging assortment of shows for sure. It's going to be fun.
I think so, yeah. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. So, heading into Indio, is there anything, so like that intro that we ran in the beginning there, Ed describing, the West Coast by the arm. You have at the top, you have Seattle, and then you get down to the armpit, it's Los Angeles. But the real reason why they had to cancel the show that was planned for Los Angeles was problematic parking and cold temperatures and that sort of thing. So that's why it got moved to where Coachella is, that we know of today. But just interesting that they would do that. And I think, like you said, the 25,000 that attended this, I think helped the band decide that, we have to cater to these larger crowds now. We're this popular, and they, this is a really good example and really good show in the timeline of how they are dealing with fame, pretty much.
Right. And just to add one more little factoid about the crowd in here, I actually was really curious. So I looked up what day of the week it was. It was a Friday night.
It was. Oh,
so
well, that helps.
That makes a little more sense, I guess, to
Sure.
kind of explain why this crowd was so insane. But yeah, I think you made it, and we kind of mentioned it before, but it's really a worthwhile point to make, is that they are ascending here, in popularity and fame, and they haven't slowed down yet. I mean, this is, it seems like all of these shows, and like we said, Ed's really in this angry mood, and even I think at this point in their career, for a lot of 93, 94, it's like peak Ed, not really coming to terms with the fame and everything,
Yeah, I think people are asking a lot of him, and in response, he's just like, why do I have to sort of give in, like, the whole music video thing. People want music videos for Pearl Jam because music videos at the time, that's how you get exposure. But, they're very adamant at this time on not making music videos because of how Jeremy was perceived and all that. So, yeah, they're putting out songs for radio play, but with the popularity that they have right here, they're still not getting that same amount of exposure that the record companies want from them.
Right. And, there's growing pains involved in this. I think this is a good example where, like we said, they're growing and they're starting to play these bigger audiences. And I said this to you before, granted, okay, yes, the crowd is nuts and they're throwing shoes. And if you're trying to play a show and play an instrument and focus and, do your job and perform and entertain, it's a little unnerving when a shoe could come up and smack you right in the face.
Sure.
At any moment. With that being said, as I again mentioned to you before, I found the performance overall, and I don't want to make it sound like I hated it and or I even really disliked it, because it gives it a unique sound, but it's sloppy. And I mean, I don't want to say sloppy like, oh, it's terrible, like every note's wrong. They're so loose, and the vibe of the entire show is so energetic, and they're, for as aggravating as it probably was to play for this audience, they're also feeding, I think, off of that energy.
I think they are, yeah.
And they're getting so amped up.
It's sort of, at the same time, it's like energy, but it's also, we don't give a fuck.
Sure, right.
I think the energy on stage,
right.
Everybody is running around. Jeff is running around like a madman. Stone is getting really into it this whole show. But, again, it has this sense of like, you guys were real assholes to our friends, the opening bands, and we don't give a fuck right now. If we miss a note, we're not going to be fretting on it. We're not going to give you the perfect performance that you guys think you deserve. And he even says it at one point. He's like, oh, you guys want your favorite song, huh? You want your favorite song. Well, we're not going to play it. Like,
Yeah, there's a real battle going on here. Yeah, there's banter. There's a lot of, like I said, it's loose. There's a lot of improvs. There's between, fuck me in the brain, and then there's an actual improv called, what is it, Thank You?
Yeah.
I think is what it's called, like the Thank You improv, and extended little breakdowns in the songs, and Eddie doing a lot of on-the-spot vocal runs and lyrics that he's kind of just coming up with in the moment, and it's just extremely laid back to the point where, yes, they are, kind of saying, you know what, we don't really care. We're going to go out and do whatever we want now because you guys are being a bunch of a-holes. Like, we're going to do whatever we want. I definitely do just get the vibe that they are, I think, all kind of messed up in the show. Like, I mean, if you really pay attention,
maybe they're getting drunk beforehand because they know they're performing to 25,000, and like,
which could definitely be part of it. But it just shows, like you hear it, and you listen to other performances, other bootlegs from around the same time period, and this one, I'm listened to a ton of them. This one just really, I listened to the entire show this morning from beginning to end, and it just really stands out how just it's sloppy. It is what it is. It's
But
just,
it works.
But it's not bad. Yes,
yeah.
it's like you have to keep in mind the context, so it's kind of. It's like there's two sides to this. So it's like I said, I don't want to, when I say that it's quote unquote sloppy, it doesn't necessarily have to mean, I'm not trying to say that it's all negative and it's all bad.
Right. This
If
is
that makes
not,
sense.
yeah, this is not like a 2018 version of Sloppy where Ed forgets the lyrics to do the evolution or something like that.
Not even close. It's like they're
It's
just
just
young,
drunk.
and
That's what it is.
Yeah, and even like Mike plays very sloppy. The whole show is very,
Yeah,
very,
this is
very
not a
not
good
good.
Mike show.
Not a good Mike show at all. Stone is fine. Jeff is fine. Dave A is a monster.
Yeah,
as usual.
Yeah.
He sounds like a shotgun. Bullets going off the entire show with that snare drum and the kick drum and everything.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Why don't we jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
We
let's
start off with Release here, and
go. Which is good.
which is great. And I wonder,
It's very, very much different from the rest of the performances.
and I wonder if they did it on purpose. If they're seeing, the rowdy crowd beforehand, and they're saying, you know what, fuck them. We're not going to start with Go. We're not going to start with Why Go or Animal or any of those that we usually kick off a show. We're going to start with Release, and we're gonna just shut them up a little bit. We're going to kind of put them in their place. Let's see what happens after that. Let's see if they're still dicks. But I think starting the show,
they were.
well, yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have, especially at this time, they don't have a lot of songs that are equivalent to Release that they can just do for the whole entire show where the crowd can just sit there and shut up. They got to go into Go and Animal. But, I mean, I love an early version of this. Again, you said with Dave A. Dave A makes versions of songs sound so much different, and it is how hard he's hitting on it, and it makes you feel like it's still, even though it's a softer song and a more emotional song, he kind of gives it a heavier vibe.
Can you see me now? I am myself like you. Somehow I wait on in the dark for you to speak to me.
I say this every show, but when you hit as hard as he does, it automatically, the performance of any song that he's on is going to have a different feel.
Yeah.
So,
and it's evident throughout the whole night just how much he stands out. And it's pretty much everything, and every time that we go back to a show from this era, you can go and look at Dave A and be like, well, that's the difference right there. That's what you're not getting with a Cameron. That's what you're not getting with Irons even. So, but yeah, throughout the whole night, he's just phenomenal. And also, I wrote here, Ed's voice is like virgin pure. There's no breaking. There's no cracking. It sounds smooth. It sounds together, especially for a Release. I think this was a really solid way to open it. And, obviously he's going to start screaming in a little bit, and we're, going to get away from that. But this is at a point where he can do it, and it can sound good. and there's a
Yeah.
lot of material to work with here. So.
And I would say I think that's a good, just to really quickly touch on that, it's a good common thread theme of this entire show, where Ed is at this point where, I mean, I think part of it just is because he is drunk, but it's like he's holding nothing back,
right,
vocally, which I love. And I've said it a million times on this show that I love early Ed, the screaming, everything. So this is the perfect time. This is like right before he starts to scale it back in like 95, 96. So he is at the point now where they really haven't turned that corner. I feel like once you get to like 94, like really like 95, they kind of, like post Vitalogy into No Code era, they kind of scale it back a little bit. I think energy wise, a little bit.
I feel like
this
it's
is
really
before
started
that.
in 96.
Yeah.
But yeah, here it's,
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I hear the energy is just at full blast.
And he
they're not
is
holding
going,
back
I mean, just nuts the entire time and screaming.
If we
nothing is held back.
If we played every scream, we'd be sitting here for hours just playing all the screams. So that's not, we're going to play a ton of them, but that's not fair to you guys and not fair to the disc jockeys out there. So right here, this little section to kickstart the crowd and kickstart the ruckus. Go, Animal, Why Go, and all these three songs, really the same point for each of them. It's a different groove, a different style, and like you said before, it kind of sounds a little bit sloppy, but it does have that groove. It does feel like it's paced a little better, and it's funny that they can play a song like Go or Animal today and it's at full blast and people can get energized for it, and here it doesn't sound as fast, but people are even more energized. So that's speaking to just the aura of the band at the time.
Yeah, and you know why? It's because the song is supposed to be played at this pace. Everything these days is sped up a million times over. So it's supposed to have more groove. And again, Dave A hitting it as hard as he hits, it gives it a different vibe. That's that simple.
Yep, and
really.
It might be a factor of just them working with what Cameron excels at, and Cameron is a very mechanical drummer that does work on his speed, and it's just different eras. It's just we talked about it in Evolution episodes. Sometimes songs just turn into something else, and here you just get it kind of groovy, and these three, even though they have a little bit of a sloppiness to them, they have a little bit of an edge too. So it's good. This is all really, really good stuff early, and you get a taste of Ed. And right before Why Go, he asks everybody how was the drive, and then he kind of mumbles something before saying Why Go home. And then after Why Go, this is really like classic 1993 Ed here.
Hey, you guys want a message? You want a message? Kill your local rapist. But torture him first. And then serve him to one of your enemies for dinner.
He just got so many amazing one-liners in this show. And
there's a lot of one-liners, a lot of mumbling,
Yeah.
a lot of screaming, a lot of cursing.
He seriously doesn't give a fuck, and it's kind of amazing. So Ed's top notch.
He carries this entire show. He really, really does. I mean, if he doesn't sing and have the quality of the performance that he gives, this show would be a total disaster.
Probably.
It really would.
Yeah, or if he doesn't control the crowd like he did later in the show. If he doesn't have that grasp and control of it, things can kind of spiral, and maybe he gets pissed off, and maybe
they just end the show and walk off for good, and that's it.
Yeah,
which they did leave at one point, but they come back.
Pretty much, but that gets us into a really just impactful version of Deep with a huge howl in the beginning. This is where you get Ed in early versions. I think he used to do it in Deep, and I think he used to do it in Garden a little bit, where he shakes the mic. Really cool effect. And obviously, as the song kind of goes on, Ed is still ranting. He's still rambling, and the song is getting out of control, like it used to at this time. And and he even says, "This is the end of the fucking song." Classic version of this.
Yep, it is. I love early versions of Deep. The howl in the beginning gets me every time. Yeah, I think you made every point I would make about it. It is classic Eddie, from the screaming to the rambling.
Not giving a fuck.
Yeah. It's a pretty characteristic performance of the entire show, really.
And you gotta love, Deep is kind of in this spot where, you play 3 bangers and then you kind of go a little bit, off pace a little bit before.
Yeah, it's a little longer.
Yeah, I would say Deep is kind of, in a different key, a different pace. Then you get into something a little poppier like Jeremy. It sort of takes the crowd in a different direction. So I liked, and that's sort of what they were doing, mid Vitalogy era with Tremor Christ, in that like nice little 4 or 5 spot. So Deep, getting that spot in the old days, that was kind of par for the course. So it is cool to go back and see it in the set there when you cover it going back. But it does get into Jeremy, and early versions of Jeremy are just, everything from, screaming, "Well, Daddy didn't give affection," like again, it's Ed going all out, just busting everybody's balls. And like we said before, it's good that he doesn't give a shit, because he's letting it all out there. And perfectly good version with a ton of energy from the band, with Mike headbanging and Jeff jumping up and down. This is, everybody's feeding off each other. I think they're, at this point at least, having a good time.
Yeah, it hasn't completely spiraled out of control yet. At this point, it seems like it's starting to progress now. Like the longer they get through this first set is where it gets really starts to get out of control. They're like right on the cusp of things getting worse.
Right.
Yeah,
we're tiptoeing there, but I would say it happens around rearview mirror-ish area, where you can kind of tell. So Ed introduces Glorified G by saying, "Heal the world with duct tape." And Glorified G, I think, was the definition of sloppy song on this night. It just did not sound together at all. Mike sounded off on it. Jeff was doing his best, but it didn't have that same sort of.
It's not tight. It's just not tight at all.
Right.
It's a mess, and let's just call it what it is. And at least it's nice that they have a fresh batch of songs here that they can play.
Sure.
With verses out a couple weeks before this. So that's good. So the set lists get more varied, and there's obviously more to choose from. I love Glorified G as a song. I think it's awesome. The best part, again, is Ed's scream at the end. Yeah. The glorified is awesome. It's really, really good. And it kind of, his vocal performance, it's like we said, Mike is off, Jeff's okay, whatever. They're just not gelling on this song. It's new, whatever.
Right.
Maybe they just didn't have the chemistry down with the song yet, and Ed carries it.
Right. It's not
100%.
It's not like the first couple that we talked about with Go and Animal, where it sounded sloppy, but it sounded like it meant to be sloppy. This was just sloppy for, just, I guess.
They just didn't play it well.
Yeah, it happens, and obviously very early on in the song's playing. I don't know how many times it had been played to that point. I don't have my stats up, but it's early, and this is also.
But I do.
Oh, what do you got?
26.
Okay, so it's a good sample size. But...
out of 136. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, this was one that they kind of let go for years and years.
Yeah.
During that whole transitional phase. So
not as much as Rats though.
Not as much as Rats. Yep, we will get to Rats. But before that, we get to Daughter, and there's just something about the pacing of. Daughter that just and I guess it's kind of the tuning in this too. Maybe today's version's a little bit more traditional standard tuning, but this sounds like the kind of tuning that Stone was using on the bus in the PJ20 version when they were writing for Brock.
Yeah, I think he still does play it this way, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, we can go to find
it
a
might
video
just be
from
maybe it's a
year,
different guitar, or maybe it's just a different sound.
Well, the tone now is definitely, it's a combination of the tone and the speed at which they're playing it. It, again, another example of a song that's played way, way, way too fast
right
now. And it needs that kind of rocking back and forth feel that it does in this performance. It's, again, off of Versus, just out. Let's see, how many times this was 33 out of 526.
Okay,
so it's still new.
Glorified G, and it's going to be the single is going to come out in the next handful of months. So this is really their radio song from the album. This is what everybody remembers from it. So Ed screaming again in this, the shrieking during the Rise Above It. It's phenomenal.
She holds her hand and holds it down. She will rise
tag here. It's just kind of improv stuff, and he says it's time to realize
your body and your mind, or something, right?
Your body and your mind, yeah. I feel like it's a popular tag in the lore of the Daughter tags or lore of the improvs. I feel like I've heard this in other spots before, like they've done this specific one.
I can't recall hearing that specific one, but it's obviously entirely possible.
Right. Maybe it's just something I recognize just from this being passed around on compilations and things like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ed, another one of a billion great lines from this night. Ed says, "Your spirit is having a human experience." What the fuck does that mean?
He's feeling some type of way.
Yeah. Would it surprise you if he was on like shrooms or something on this night?
Or smoked weed
beforehand.
Both. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, he's slurring his words. It's honestly amazing that he sounds as good as he does.
That he's standing on 2 feet is amazing.
Yeah.
It goes to show you when you don't give a fuck and you're, taking the stage to a bunch of rowdy 25,000 people that are about to throw shoes at your head, you got to have some sort of sense in you. So that gets us into a live, obviously pretty cool, for a mid-set to get Daughter live back-to-back. The one thing that I took from this is during the chorus where you have Jeff doing a little backup vocals there going la 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 la. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that. How did I miss that?
Almost sounds like it's part of what Stone is doing, but it's
He blends it in. That's funny.
he blends it in really well, but it's really funny. But yeah, you could tell at this point, like they're feeding off the energy from this crowd and vice versa. Everybody is in a mood at this point, and it's coming close to getting to a fever pitch, but we're not there yet. We're not there just yet. So one of the great one-liners from this show that everybody remembers.
I don't know if the band's been to this area before, or the country, I don't know. But the first guy that I met today, he gave me this book. He said, do you know the secret to living forever? Has anyone ever told you the secret to living forever? Why the fuck would I want to live forever? Jesus Christ.
And he throws the book in the crowd. It's just another great audience interaction here.
He's in a
top
great
notch.
mood.
Yeah, he's pissed off, but he's also like appreciative at the same time.
Yeah, I think he's like he's like half joking at some points.
Of course. Yeah. It's interesting to see Ed like this because if he did this nowadays, the talking to that he would get from his wife and the face that his 15 and 10-year-old would give him, Dad, what are the things that you're saying? What do you mean? Why wouldn't you want to live forever? Mm-hmm. I don't think at this point Ed would have ever envisioned himself writing a song called Future Days.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Definitely not.
Rearview mirror here, mid-set.
Really good.
Yeah, this is great.
This is a good performance.
And again, another one that's paced, more with a groove and it's setting the tone with Dave A. And you don't get that long bridge with the experimentation that you get nowadays, but it's just I kind of like it. You get a little bit of feedback and distortion that sounds kind of cool. Ed lets it rip at the
good
end.
Scream. Yep.
Yeah, and it looked as though in the final part of this that somebody had thrown something on stage. Did you catch that?
Yeah, there's shoes flying all throughout this part as he's playing guitar.
Yeah,
like flying right next to him. So they're getting worse. It's getting worse now.
Right, which is kind of crazy because I think this is probably the only song that Ed plays on at the show.
This
is the only musical. Musically, I think this is the only one that Ed's written up to this point. I think maybe a couple others, but he doesn't. Most of these other songs he doesn't play on nowadays.
Right. Well, they were doing like "I'm Patriot" at this point.
Yeah.
So he's doing that every now and then. He'd play guitar.
Was he playing Elderly Woman at this point? Probably not.
I don't think yet. Not yet.
But that's another thing to add to his plate that he's actually. Playing on stage,
guitar, and having to deal with the shoes,
right. Yeah. So, it's about to get bad. But we have an improv here before we get to the popular improv, and this improv is called "Thank You." They've done it a couple of times, but it's a cool transition.
Okay. It's cool. It's kind of funky. I think it has like the same exact drum beat as "Fuck Me in the Brain" does. This has a little bit more of a funk vibe.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, it's all right. You're right.
It's okay.
Yeah. But here's where you get to probably a top 3 moment of this show.
This is, I will just tell you right now, this is my favorite performance of this song ever.
How does he do it? How does he do it?
I said, I think part of it is drunk energy.
Yeah.
I really do.
But the whole entire song, he is peak scream, and I don't know how he didn't blow out his vocal cords for the rest of the night.
Spin me around, roll me over, fucking suckers! Stop it there, one when you know, but so slowly. The pages feels as sponges. Is my love. Is my love.
This is around the time, and it's in PJ 20, I think. I think it's in the book. And I mentioned this last time, someone tells Ed that he can't keep singing like this. It's like it's a famous singer.
That, yeah.
It's and I can't remember, like it might be Neil Young, I can't remember, or it might have been Pete Townsend or like Roger Daltrey. It might have been Roger Daltrey actually.
Okay.
But they tell him, whoever it is, they're like, listen, kid, you can't you're gonna blow your voice out. You can't keep doing that. So that's why after like 94 into 95, 96, you get that warbly, garbled, marble in your mouth Ed that he didn't really have at this point because he's still letting it rip here.
He's still young. He's still just immature, and he
wants to put on amazing.
He wants to put on a show. Look at, who else had their hat in the ring at this point with Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Stone Temple Pilots and, a couple of the other bands that were more manufactured at the time that were just about to come up, like a Bush or a Green Day or a couple of those other bands. But there's competition. And I feel like between at least most of those bands, at least like the Seattle versus the California bands sort of, it feels like there's competition to sort of say, hey, we're the best live act out there. And the way that we have to portray it is to fucking scream our lungs out. And that's how people...
Until it fills this room.
Until it fills this room. I didn't want to actually say it.
I'll do it for you, don't worry.
Yeah, dad jokes. But we can't go a show without at least 3 of them. But, man, he is at the fucking top of his lungs on this one, and at the end he's got the mic stand and he gets into Mike's face and he's like almost jabbing Mike with the stand, and then he starts smashing it, and it's a typical song where he's gonna do that stuff. So it's just really, it's peak. It's fucking awesome.
It is. Like I said, I don't know what more I can really add other than to say what I already said, which is that it's my favorite performance of Blood of all time. And
they were playing a little baseball with the mic stand too. Did you notice that?
I did not.
Maybe the crowd is throwing some shit and maybe he's swinging. I didn't remember exactly. It's in between songs, but it looks like he was swinging around playing a little baseball. Lest we forgot that this version is a B-side on the Daughter single. I think
it is.
Yeah, I think that's important for us to mention. So it was
that good.
Yeah, it was that good. So Ed sings a line or two from My Generation and says, "Because they're fucked, they're old and fucked." That's what I wrote down.
No, it is what he says. That is exactly what he says.
I don't know in what connotation he says it. I can't remember at this moment, but those are Ed's words. And then he just asked the crowd, "Want to hear Rats?" And gotta love the groove to this one too. It's not it's not really a slow groove, but it's jammy. It's progressive, you know, and that's another, this is another Dave A heavy song at the time, I think.
Yeah, this song just by its nature is funky, Rats, and it's a solid performance. I would say it's probably overall might be one of the better performances of the entire show, and yeah, Dave A kills it, and Eddie again right on it, and yeah, it's a solid performance, and
you can see a shoe flying at the end of it.
Yeah, and another song that really, as like Glorified G, we said, I mean, Glorified G's been played 136 times all time. Somehow Rats has only been played 59 times.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Only 59?
59 times.
I know. I look at these stats all the time, and then I'm surprised when, when somebody actually says it. But this was only the 7th time that it was played.
Yeah, so I'll put it in perspective for you. So they played it 11 times in 93. They played it 11 in 94, twice in 95, twice in 96, twice in 98, and then they didn't play it again until 2006.
They actually played it in 98? I didn't think it lasted that long. Wow.
They played it twice. Yep.
Jeez.
And I can tell you, they played it in West Palm Beach, Florida, and Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Wow.
So
I mean, I guess there's lots of Rats over in Florida, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which is great because, you know, this is why you got to get to a garden show. You're almost guaranteed to get Rats because almost every single year that they've played either a New York or a Brooklyn show, they've played it, and out of 59 times, that's a pretty good percentage that you'll get it in New York. So, you know, if you haven't gone to an MSG show yet and you really need to see Rats, there's your chance. That gets us into Once, and man, he's at another level of drunkenness at this point, because in that first line,
without baby, I don't give a shit, man.
what is going on? Is he just genuinely pissed off at the crowd and just doesn't want to be up there, or is he?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to tell, but fuck, it's fun. It's fun.
It is.
Once was a little bit of a disaster.
It's probably the sloppiest performance of the show.
But what they do here is they extend the bridge a little more, which you don't hear at all. So I was intrigued by that.
I feel like it's all Dave at this point, because the band sounds like they're about to start kicking back into the last chorus.
Right.
And then he just keeps going. He keeps the same groove of the bridge going and going and going to the point where they're like, okay, I guess we're going to just kind of go with that then and not go to the chorus and jam and play a little more. It seems
kind of weird that Dave A would just take it upon himself to do that when it's something that really hadn't been practiced before, really hadn't been performed like that, because I haven't heard a version of Once that has done this before. Had you heard that before? Or?
No, not that I can recall, and it is a little weird that he would do that, but it falls in line with the rest of the show.
Yeah.
You know,
it's something unique, and it's something that you're not gonna cherry pick out of a lot of other shows from this time. So, you know. And then Ed says here, I got one last thing to say, and it applies to everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. What the fuck is this world? And then he's really taunting the crowd during Porch.
Spit on me. Spit on me.
me with your spit. Come on, bring out the heavy spitters. Oh, spit. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. That was a fucking loogie. All more loogies. It's fucking loogies. Spit! 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 Spit!
That is just losing his mind.
It really is. Like, did somebody actually spit on him before?
Probably.
With the shoes and with the spit, and I'm sure there's got to be mud in the crowd. You would think, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, this is outdoors.
Right. Yeah. That's you could see dirt flying up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, fuck me. Wow.
Just mayhem. Absolute mayhem.
Strobe lights going off, and the band is in just full on destruction mode, and he does a line from a Henry Rollins song called "Tearing" before the chorus, and pretty common for the time. Hasn't been tagged since '94, but yeah, I feel like he was channeling a lot of Henry Rollins and Black Flag-esque just hatred and anger a lot here. So that's where we get to at this point. This is all leading to this.
Stop! Fuck me in my brain! Fuck me in my brain! You fucking little cunt! You're driving me insane! Fuck me in the brain! Fuck me in the brain! Driving me insane! Fuck me in my life! Yeah. You wanted to be my life! Fuck me in my brain! I'm ready for you. I don't believe nothing, even if it's true. No. Fuck me. Fuck me. My brain. Fuck me. My ears are open.
For an improv and for them doing it on the spot, it's pretty incredible because it sounds really well put together, but it's just Ed screaming over and over again, fuck me in the brain, fuck you, you fucking cunts. You know, it would go on to be part of the Christmas single from that year, and it would be the third set of ramblings. And it's funny because they would keep all the fucks and all the shits, but they would censor cunt. They would bleep out the word cunt on the vinyl. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, man, tell us here what.
I mean, where to begin? First of all, classic. I mean, just classic 90s PJ moment. Obviously, it reaches a tipping point. Ed's done. I mean, they've had enough, and I'm pretty sure musically it's just the Hendrix chord, which is also the same chord from Dirty Frank.
Right, yeah.
Just played over and over and over and over again over that same, played over the same drum beat. I'm pretty sure, if my ear is correct, I think it's the same, just the same chord.
It's that the whole entire way. They don't change progression at all.
And I mean, he's just screaming, just screaming and cursing and ranting and raving and just losing his mind. It's just flat out losing his mind, and the constant barrage of shoes being thrown in their direction. It's just become too much for Edward Louis Severson III to handle on November 5th, 1993 in Indio, California. The it's become too much, and he breaks, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's what you get.
tipping point. This is the tipping point. Fuck me in the brain, fucking throw shoes at me, and they stop the improv. You could see Dave A throw his drumstick. He chucks his drumstick across the stage. He leaves in a huff. He's pissed off, and I think it's just Ed and Mike that are on stage. Everybody else leaves, and then Ed. He gets a shoe thrown at him. He licks the bottom of a shoe.
Your dirt is my fucking food. Don't you understand that by now?
He really I'm pretty sure he actually does lick it, too.
Yeah, straight. He gets down dirty and deep on that. Yeah, that is a lick. But he's addressing them now.
This is so funny.
Me and Jeff are gonna go to the front gate, and when you guys exit, we're gonna beat the shit out of every barefoot person here.
Man, he's rambling. He's going back and forth with them. He takes a shoe at one point, throws it back into the crowd. Then later on, he gets decked with one. Meanwhile, could you tell what Mike is playing in the background?
He's playing some song.
Black Diamond.
Yeah. Like a song that I knew, but I couldn't really figure out exactly what it was. But yeah, I think that's what it is. And then Ed starts asking for a shirt and a hat and all these other different articles of clothing so he can put them on. And
I think that older Ed, looking back 26 years later, would be proud of himself.
You know what? We're really good at turning these kind of situations into good ones. I just had this great idea. These are all going to be donated to charity. Thanks so much. Thank you. All right, more shoes. Shoe the shoeless. More shoes. Shoes from my friend.
Shoes for my friends.
Shoes for my friends.
More shoes. More shoes for my friends. And you see at one point, Jeff actually comes back out and he spits water into the crowd. Did you see that?
I did.
Like, man, I don't know what has gotten into everybody.
They, yeah.
They're all pissed off.
They,
at this
like
point.
we said, they broke. That's it. You know, they've had enough.
And this
from
is
this
the
crowd.
point, and this is around, Ed gets like a cardigan or something thrown at him, and he puts it on, and he said, some boxers or a pair of pants or a cap would be nice right now. He's, I hope that they actually did donate all of it to charity. That would be nice, but who in the right minds from charity is going to take all that stuff? Be like, well, we have one Converse here, and this unlaced, Nike sneaker with mud and dirt all over it. Like, if I'm Goodwill, I'm not taking any of this stuff. I'm not accepting any of this. But a couple of other just great classic lines. He says, I was going to play your favorite song, but I got interrupted by a shoe. And then he says, somebody throw up a gun so I can shoot you all.
Which I don't think he would ever say now, ever.
No. Especially, with
Vegas.
Be careful what you wish for. He leaves the stage and says, that's it, good night. And the crowd kind of buys into it. Like, that's it, that they're done. They're not coming back. That he's legitimately pissed off that people have been throwing shoes at them all night, and they're done. They had it. So it takes them a while to get back onto stage. I think they need a little bit of a breather there. But, let the crowd kind of settle a little bit. But when they come back, they go and they start off with Sonic Reducer, and everybody is behind the amplifiers. They're all, they're awaiting fire, which is still, it's not happening as much. It's starting to cool down now, but there's still some assholes that didn't get a chance to before, or maybe people, threw from the back through their shoes and hit somebody up front,
I think this is a really good, just to sum this point up, there's a good review from the LA Times that I had sent you.
Yeah.
Published on November 8th, 1993, and it's titled Pop, Pearl Jam Blossoms in Desert. And the third paragraph, second, Jesus. But even Vedder, for all his recent comments about the pressures of stardom, probably never imagined that later, meaning later in the show, he and his bandmates would have to seek space behind the amplifier stacks, running for cover from a barrage of shoes thrown at them by a pea-brained contingent of the audience.
The writer deserves a Pulitzer.
Yeah, I mean, they get it. They understand. It's just, it's nuts. So,
but yeah, I mean, it's nuts, but like, I feel like this whole encore, it's kind of dying down a little bit, and they get into even flow, and it's crazy to get in the encore spot, but the band has just lost their minds at this point. Mike is shirtless. Stone has this chicken.
Is this the chicken head one?
This is the chicken. Yeah,
love it. I mean, it's just, come on, it's just so funny. Yeah. And if you have no idea what we're talking about,
it's Stone.
Like, just if you, I mean, we have the picture. Yeah, we'll post it. Yeah. But the picture, if you just Google, see, the problem is because I tried finding it because I knew I'd seen it before, but then I was trying to re-find it, and I'm Googling like Stone Gosser 1993, Stone Gosser chicken mask hat, like, and it's not popping up. So I ended up just Googling Pearl Jam Indio 1993, and it popped up. It's just so funny. He looks like he's not expecting the picture to be taken, and Eddie's just screaming at like the back of the stage, and Stone's just kind of looking over to his right, wearing this stupid rubber chicken hat thing. Oh, it's so funny.
But that's about how the show went.
Typical Stone. Yeah.
Going back into the final chorus, Ed is doing more rambling, and I can't tell what he's singing during this, but it's classic him. It's very much him.
I mean, the whole show, though, really. It's really like the whole show he's doing that.
Yeah, there's not much more that we can say. It's 1993, we reminisce because we weren't there, and you weren't even born yet. I was barely a child. But fuck, man, to be in that era and know what was going on in that era, that must have been something real cool, just to experience that if you were at this show.
100%.
I want to know, we didn't come up with the question of the week, but I kind of want to know from people, Pearl Jam experience. What, if you were to go back to any year in Pearl Jam's or any era, what year would you want to see a show? And I think a lot of fans, there's still the old school fans that have been there from the beginning, but I think a lot of people, have been going to shows the last 20, maybe, 15 years or so, and they got to miss a lot. Both of us got to miss many eras of the band. So if you have a favorite time period of the band, 93, 94, 95, and those years are very different from each other. If you were to go back and view one show in a time machine, what show or what year would you view? liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with us. Let's have a conversation about it. So
that would be fun. That's a good question.
Yeah. But Ed here, after Even Flow, saying we're waving a white flag. We're here to play to some of you guys who are just being fucking fucks. If you want, we're playing another song.
This is like this actually is so, I don't, just because the way you just said that is like so different than the way he says it. And it's like, because you're just, obviously you're just trying to read it. But like if you hear him say it, some of you guys just being a fucking fox, man. It's so good. It's just, he's like so out of it at this point. He's like, he doesn't even know what to do anymore. And it's just, the way he says this part is hysterical.
If you want, we'll play another song. If not, there's nothing you can do. That gets us into Indifference. And I think the crowd has pretty much had it at this point too. You know, they know that this is not a song that you move the mosh pit to. It's got to be tiring after a while.
Yeah.
You know, and this is not even, you know, for Indifference being back then, I'm more of a fan of it now, to be honest with you. I feel like it wasn't really depressing. It really wasn't a sing-along either at this point. I feel like it was just kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's new.
Right.
It's only been out for a few weeks.
And when people are listening to a full album and you get down to, you know, say you find your tracks and you want to go back and you want to listen to Blood and you want to listen to Rearview Mirror because those are your favorite tracks, track 12 is probably the last thing you're going to listen to, especially when it's, you know, something kind of, you know, depressing and kind of slow and all that. So, you know, it doesn't fully find its form yet with this, but it is interesting to listen to.
Yeah, it's still good. I enjoy it. I thought it was a solid performance overall.
His voice is still ridiculously powerful.
Which is insane. I mean, for how much he screamed and screamed for the whole show, and it still sounds that clear and crisp. Ugh.
Couldn't do it forever.
I don't know, man. He's just, you know, gifted, obviously. It's nuts.
Yeah, just this one night, I suppose was, you know, the next night they would play Mesa, Arizona, and that would be the first appearance of Yellow Ledbetter, actually, and I would think that maybe he should have a strain on that night, but who the hell knows? Yeah, Ed, after Indifference, says goodnight. The band leaves, but they're going to end up doing one more. This is really a double encore. They come out, they do Baba, and this is just... They should have left it in Indifference. I don't like speaking ill of this song, but man, was this just a poor ass performance.
Yeah, it's so bad. Mike is just brutally butchers it. Like, the riff
Mike
is not even being played in time.
Yeah,
they're all messed up. They're all messed up at this point. It just gets worse.
Yeah.
The riff is not played correctly at all. It's off time. He doesn't even do the solo at the end, the little lead part. He doesn't even bother. He kind of like leans over and just gives up. He's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. He's like, I think he drops his pick and he doesn't even try to pick it up. It's like they're spent. They're done. It's over. They've endured this absurdly rude and obnoxious crowd for as long as they could, and that's it.
They gave into it.
It's time to end it.
Yeah, right. They gave into it, and they gave all that they can give. And, you know, for them to go out and play one more, I'm sure they're thinking in the back of their heads, like, okay, this is one. If we turn this into something, if this band is bigger than what it is now in 10 years, people are still going to be talking about this. People might be talking about this regardless of that. So maybe we just give them one more. It didn't need it. It
didn't need it. I will say it is the kind of song, especially at this point, where based on how ridiculous the crowd has been, it fits well in that it gets the crowd going and like they can jump up and down, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah,
it's an old Who song. It's a cover. It gets everybody jumping up and down. So in that regard, I think like as far as like reading the room and reading the audience, it's a good performance, but it's like they play it so badly. But Ed, again, still sounds solid that it's like, okay, we don't need this. Like,
it almost doesn't
we
matter.
didn't need that.
It almost doesn't matter.
Right.
So, all right. That's the end of the line for this one. Boy, this was it was a struggle to get through, because how many times are we just going to say they're just fucking wasted and the crowd is just fucking
They're all wasted.
Hey. You with the dad jokes now.
See?
But like I felt like we were repeating ourselves so much, but it all needed to be said because that's what this show ran off of. That's the fumes, that's the energy, that's the absolute absurdity of it. So, top 3 moments. What do you got?
Fuck Me in the Brain.
Yeah.
Shoe the Shoeless Rant. And Blood being my favorite performance of Blood of all time.
Okay. I'll go Blood at 3. Deep at 2. And I want to put the Fuck Me in the Brain and the Shoe the Shoeless stuff together because it kind of ran together. But I mean, I think number 1 is just overall the attitude and just how pissed off the band was, and just fun listening to it and knowing that you can't get that again. You can listen to all the bootlegs from 2010, 2009 all you want, and yeah, they might be special shows that we've covered the last couple weeks, some really special shows and popular shows in there, but they ain't like this. This is something completely different. So I have a lot of appreciation for it, and if I were to have a number 1, I think it's just overall just Ed being Ed.
He kills it for how messed up he is in the show, which we've harped on the entire time. I have no complaints about his performance at all.
No.
He kills it.
Every song he's giving 100%, and it's different. We talked about on the State of Love and Trust Evolution episode, the Everybody Loves Us, Everybody Loves Our Town. He was wasted at that show, and he couldn't perform, and he was wasted here too, maybe the same amount of drinks, but he was able to hone it in a little more. He was able to feed off of it a little more, and he was able to be comprehensible. He wasn't at that other one. He wasn't able to do that. So at least a lot of respect for him figuring out how to be a mess on stage.
Right.
So
yeah, he's just enough in control to get through the show.
Yeah. With all the sloppiness and all the craziness, what would you rate it?
The thing is, there's moments here where it really does give you, or makes me want to rate it higher. I'll go 7.
Okay.
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's just we've said it a million times. He's great. I love Blood. The rants are hysterical. Everything like that. But it's just they just don't sound great overall to me. It's a little too. And I love raw, loose PJ. Like I do. I love this era. As you know, I love these early 90s shows. But it's honestly just a little too much, I think. A little too loose for me.
Okay.
Which I never really thought I would say. But listening back to it again today, I really believe that.
Before you said anything, I didn't even think of it come to mind. I thought it was just kind of early 90s and a different attitude at a different time period, and that's just what it was. But I'm going to give this a 9 because I just...
Wow. Okay.
I think it has a special place in the lore of Pearl Jam, and, everybody knows Fuck Me in the Brain and what that became, and it's just, there's a lot of... I feel like it's a 9 that wasn't intended to be a 9 at all. This was a 9 that was really intended to be a 5.
Yeah.
But because of that, and because there's some sort of art to the madness of it, I can't help it. I can't help it. So, I love it. I love old angsty attitude, and crowds that are absolutely bonkers, and this is probably one of the worst crowds that they've ever had, meaning one of the best crowds that they've ever had. So I give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll listen to this again at some point soon. It's just, it's fun, and it deserves the attention that we gave it today. That's all I'll say. So what a ride. That was fun.
It was.
Yeah. we will be back next week. Like we mentioned before, we're going to be doing London Night 2 2018 with our good friend and patron Aurelian. And of course, anybody that wants to come on the show like Aurelian's doing next week, all you gotta do is donate to Patreon, patreon.com/liveon4legs. We're getting more Patreon episodes once the new year comes into full effect. We're getting a lot of new people coming on the show, talking about their experiences. You can be one of those people. We'll fit you in. We're doing some cool stuff next year, but I think we could be able to fit you in. I think that won't be a problem at all. And hey, if you don't want to do a show like we did today, then if you want to do an Evolution episode or maybe an episode of the new series that we're starting in the new year, those are absolutely available for you as well. So patreon.com/liveon4legs, contribute whatever you got to the show, and we give exclusive episodes and a chance for you to come on the show back to you. And don't forget, on our social media pages, polls opening for the best show of the decade vote, and we're going to start with 2010, and by the time next week's show airs, I'm sure we'll be through 2011 too. So we're going to try to do them in two to 3 day chunks there, so don't miss those if you have specific shows that you want to vote for. Anything else?
No, I am excited for that vote. I think it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be fun to see all the different shows that everyone comes up with, and this was fun. Tons of classic moments that we beat to death here.
Yeah,
and love these early '90s shows. I really do. And Ed is the highlight here. It's awesome. Good stuff.
Can't get enough. So with that being said, we will see you next week. This may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, I miss you already, and I miss you always. For Randy and Buckley, and for Indio, 1993, and for Fuck Me in the Brain and all you shoeless, friends out there, we'll see you next week.
Later.
Some of you guys... Okay, wait, I'm just gonna come clean with you. I'm waving the white flag, all right? We're here to play, and some of you guys are just being fucking fucks, man. Okay, that's it. Good night.